Friends, I am Abhay Kumar and I am right now sitting at JNU Jawaharlal Nehru University. The results of 2024 JNU student elections is out, and ABVP have lost all four seats, central panel seats, and three candidates from the United Left organization and one candidate from BAPSA has won. And with me is Priyanshi Arya. She is doing PhD in philosophy in JNU, and now she is elected representative of JNUSU. She is General Secretary of JNUSU 2024. She belonged to Ambedkarite BAPSA organization, and today I will be asking some questions about her journey to politics and her association with Ambedkarite movement and what has made BAPSA achieve such a great success. Those who may not know much about BAPSA, BAPSA was formed in 2014 in JNU, and I think for the first time it has been able to win a general secretary seat, win a seat in central panel, and maybe that this would be the beginning of a new history for BAPSA. Generally, it is being argued that JNU is red, JNU is always dominated by the left ideology, but the presence of BAPSA is also being felt. So we will be taking some questions in 10 or 15 minutes. Priyanshi, you have agreed to talk with me. I first of all thank you and I congratulate you for winning General Secretary post.
Thank you so much, Abhay.
So the first questions I would be asking is that tell us your experience with Ambedkarite movement and what has made you join BAPSA in JNU.
So, as people coming from an oppressed caste, we are no strangers to discrimination. We have never been strangers to discrimination, be it in the small instances of you going to another friend's home and their parents and their elder ones hyperfixating on your surname or asking what your parents do, and then asking, basically trying to know your caste location, or serving you in different plates, or even your friends joking that you are from a lower caste and we are from a higher caste. For them it is a matter of joke, a matter to laugh at, but for us it instills a sense of inferiority complex, a very acute sense of inferiority complex. But the main instance that has pushed me away from Hinduism, away from all these religions, away from the gods, and towards an Ambedkarite ideology is the instance where my father lost his job due to caste discrimination in his workplace. He suffered a lot mentally as well, and our family were in a financial crisis for a long time until my mother started working. So that thing for my father and for me as well pushed us away from all these faith in gods, because the gods couldn't help us then. Towards Ambedkar and his readings, and he would read and he would tell me, and it was an eventual journey into Ambedkarism. That is where it all happened for us, and yeah.
So you studied at Delhi University, you did philosophy at Indraprasth College, BA philosophy.
Yeah.
After that you came to JNU as a MA student in 2022.
Yeah.
And now you are doing your PhD on gender in analytical philosophy. So tell us something about your experience in DU. Maybe have you come across any Ambedkarite organizations? Have you ever felt like joining any organizations there, or it was the case that your encounter with Ambedkarite movement happened with BAPSA only?
So actually, what DU was like, DU and especially women's colleges in DU. I come from Indraprasth College for Women. They are very elitist spaces. You could say progressive in a certain sense as well, but they learn all their activism from social media, and it's a very surface form of activism. They are staunchly against saffronization, but then these very people who would be joining all these leftist parties in DU or portray themselves as very progressive and elite and whatnot, they are the very people who sit down and bash reservation the first chance that they get. They sit down and make fun of people who come from quota or say caste slurs just like that in a normal language. They would use caste slurs as well. So I believe that their form of progressiveness is very surface level, and people are still not comfortable with and despise the reality of caste, and people coming from upper caste backgrounds despise people in a, it is inbuilt in them, it is inculcated in them through their families, that these people coming from backward caste who are coming through affirmative action, making use of affirmative action, they do not have the quote
Merit.
unquote merit, quality, and they're not as deserving as you are, because you have worked hard. But then they don't realize that yeah, they have worked out, but they also haven't had any obstacle that we have had. They have a privilege that we do not. That is why affirmative action is needed, but they do not understand the simple logic in DU. Or even in JNU, that might be the case with leftist parties here. I see that all the menial works of pasting posters and all these things are done, given to Bahujan cadre. But then the intellectual work or the work of power position, people, their systems are very Savarna dominated. People in power are some Savarna. There have been some positive changes in the recent years, that is commendable and that is a good thing. But then why did it take so long for your organization, which calls yourself to be so-called progressive, to change? That is my question. With Ambedkarite organizations, there have not been any Ambedkarite organizations in DU. It's all either ABP or left.
Or maybe NSUI.
Or maybe NSUI.
Yes.
But in JNU, that is like my first encounter with an Ambedkarite organized organization, Ambedkarite community, which speaks for the rights and dignity of the oppressed. And I knew of BAPSA through social media, and I had it clear in my mind that I want to join BAPSA because from very early on, as I mentioned, I realized that this world is not as safe for me as it might be for my Savarna friends. So they can indulge in some sort of these politics, they can indulge with the leftist organizations, but my connection to an Ambedkarite organization is solely a matter of asserting my own identity, solely a matter of a fight for dignity, fight for my own dignity as a Dalit person.
You come from Uttarakhand, and now you are in Delhi. You have studied at, let's say, very elite places at Delhi University. Generally, as a student of sociology, earlier the scholars of modernization theories argued that once urbanization will happen, once economic development will happen, then caste will go away. Okay, so there is no need to give reservations, give any affirmative actions, eradicate caste on a special basis, but just do economic growth, things will go away. So do you find any change as far as the attitude towards caste is concerned? Do you agree with the view that in cities caste is less or caste is disappearing?
I do not agree with that at all. Even like economic justice is one thing, but it is not a holistic form of justice, and it cannot eradicate casteism. I felt like my father, being a bank manager, he still bank manager is a very respectable position and a good amount of money also, that good amount of salary also that one person gets, but then he still faced caste discrimination, an acute form of caste discrimination that made him lose his job, that destabilized him mentally. So even with economic justice, whatever form of economic justice we got, and we got it through affirmative action only, otherwise we wouldn't have. Because of reservation, my father could come there, that he worked hard, and because reservation was there, he could make a space in a Agrahara or in a Savarna dominated place. But then even then, even after affirmative action, he did face a brutal form of casteism in his workplace that made him lose his job. That is a thing of a small town. But then when you come in Delhi, the things are the same. These people do talk of being very progressive, but then these people are the only people, their families would be like, you have to marry within our caste. My friends who are from Savarna backgrounds, who are Savarna, their families are looking for people, potential partners who are from the same caste, and they will have a hard time marrying out of their caste. So if this not a is this not a form of casteism, even after years of affirmative action or even after years of education that these elite people get? in their private institutions, in their elite institutions. Even after that, they practice casteism. My friends go looking for a place to stay in Delhi, like flat hunting. The landlords there ask them their caste, their entire surname to know their caste location. Straight away, these people in Delhi, like you get a vibe, you get a idea that maybe you have a presupposition that maybe Delhi would be better in form of acceptance and there would be less casteism, but there is not. When they go flat hunting, they are asked their full names to know their caste location, and when they know that, when they have confirmed, the landlords have confirmed that they come from an upper caste background, then they say that we don't give our flats to these caste people, or we don't give our flat to Muslims, or we don't give a flat to we don't rent out flats to Northeast people. For Northeast people, they use a very derogatory slur like that. So a lot of, even after education, even after years of education and development in a city like Delhi, the economic justice is not enough. There is a seeped in form of casteism that people cannot let go of, and that has is being faced by people like us, and we are at the brunt of the force.
So you mean to say that the liberals and the leftists, they have been completely failed to understand caste because of their too much stress on economic dimensions?
I believe that within Marxism would work, and it's a very commendable theory. But in India, when within the aspect where it comes the aspect of caste, you cannot ignore it, because caste is a very brutal reality. So you cannot just superimpose a theory that works solely on caste in these areas. With my contention with the Indian left is that their systems are Brahminical, but they do not seek to recognize it. They belittle identity politics, and these are the very people who have been reluctant to say Jai Bhim. Within this university, these people have been reluctant to say Jai Bhim before 2014, or they have at once called Ambedkar a suited booted bourgeois, and all these terms. So of course they have failed and neglected to raise the issues of the marginalized, because their structures are Brahminical, their foot soldiers are all Bahujans, people who shed blood in their for their revolution are Bahujans. But then people holding power, people sitting in places of authority, people giving directions to others are Savarna. So what if this is not Brahminism, that is very much intact in your structures of your organization, what is it then if not Brahminism?
And some of the left supporters would argue that the organizations like BAPSA is very much very much giving prominence to middle class agenda. I think the issues of the peasants and the marginalized community, landless laborers, they are being left out. So just to say that the party structure is not democratized, and just to say that Dalits are not represented, the left ideology and left parties cannot be done away with. So what is your response to that claim?
My response to that claim is parties like BAPSA, first of all, their contention with us is that we do not talk of landless laborers or peasants, but then if you do a caste census, you would recognize that all these people, which caste all these people belong to. Even within a university space, BAPSA has demanded for a caste census of workers and faculty as well. Then we would realize that who sits in AC rooms and who does your cleaning jobs. So of course BAPSA does talk of all these things, because the people facing the brunt of all this oppression, people who are economically also marginalized in a large number, come from Bahujan backgrounds, because that has been the structure of a Brahminical society since thousands and thousands of years, and it cannot be undone with just 50 years of affirmative action. So I believe that this blame on BAPSA is a very unfounded claim, and we do identity politics, and we focus on identity politics because the discrimination and oppression that works in India is based on identity. We are marginalized, we are oppressed, we are discriminated against based on our identities. When we go to looking for jobs, we are rejected because of our caste locations. We are rejected because maybe we are from a minority, religious minority group. We are rejected because maybe we are queer. Or even when we seek admissions here, the left party, the left JNUSU, left-led JNUSU has been in power for 40 years almost here in JNU. But then professors, the leftist professors are the very professors who have for all these years rejected Bahujan students, given them 2 or 3 marks in Viva Voce, saying that they are not suitable enough or saying that they are not meritorious enough. So what sort of marginalized issue are these left people bringing up when people aligning with their own ideology have done all this sort of operation for so many years? Left has been there in this campus, dominating in this campus for so many years, but then all these issues still persist. Issues regarding fellowship still persist, issues regarding Viva Voce still persist, and so issues regarding disability, desensitized form of desensitization within this university space as per to disabled people, these issues still exist. And so I'm like, I have a question with this left organization. What sort of marginalized voices have they been raising, and why their blame on BAPSA that we do identity politics or we only raise the voices of a marginalized few is a very unfounded claim, because when we talk about unity of the oppressed. Within this unity of the oppressed come all the people, SC, ST, OBC people who have been discriminated against in a Brahminical structure in India. Person from marginalized genders and queer people who have been oppressed because due to a heteronormative society. Women who are the victims of Brahminical patriarchy. Person with disabilities who suffer because of negligence and ignorance. Persons coming from religious minorities. All of this come within the ideology of oppressed unity, and we believe that once these oppressed people get a collective conscience and come together, we can overthrow Hindutva fascism, we can overthrow Brahminwad, and we can overthrow Manuwad. So our ideology is very much intact, but I do want to ask left people what is their agenda, what is their agenda except anti-ABVP. I believe that right now their ideology is just defeating ABVP, but then they do not have an ideological backing to actually carry out the process. With BAPSA we have Ambedkarite ideology, and Ambedkar has been, I believe till date, he has been the strongest critique of Hindutva, of casteism, in his annihilation of caste, the way he has attacked Brahminical structures, the way he has attacked Manusmriti, the way he has attacked casteism. I believe nobody has as strongly as he has. So in BAPSA we have that ideological backing to eradicate Brahminism, Manuwad and Hindutva fascism as well, and we do raise the voice of the larger oppressed that has not been raised. So we are not selective in our justice.
Supporters of left would argue that they have no problem in saying that Jai Bhim and Lal Salam, but on the other hand, organizations like BAPSA would be very reluctant to say Lal Salam, and then the left supporters are ready to form a larger alliance with, let's say, Dalit organizations, left organizations to defeat, let's say, Hindu right forces. But they argue that the response is not so warm from the Ambedkarite organization. That is how somehow this greater unity is being weakened. So, do you think that the larger blame lies with your organization, or is it just a propaganda?
I totally believe that this is a propaganda. If the talks of alliance that we have in secret with left, the BAPSA, if they are done openly, everyone would realize who is to blame there. So, like, since these are confidential talks, I'm not very willing to share here. But then they are saying that we are open to saying Jai Bhim. But then before 2014, these were the very people reluctant to say that. 2014 is the inception of BAPSA, and BAPSA has set forth such a strong discourse of Bahujan unity, of oppressed unity, that these organizations and BAPSA has inculcated a emphasized on a collective conscience and cultivated a collective conscience within these oppressed communities, that okay, we are here to raise your voices which have earlier been marginalized and not been taken care of, and we are here. So such a strong unity of the oppressed and has been created, that after 2014 left did realize that okay, if we do not raise the issues of the Bahujans, if we do not raise their issues, if we do not talk of Bahujan dignity and Bahujan rights, we will not be able to have a stronghold within JNU, because BAPSA has set forth a discourse of oppressed unity, a discourse for Bahujan dignity, and that is how they have started. Because my question is, if it was already there in your ideology, why were you so reluctant to say Jai Bhim before that? Why was there no mention of Ambedkar? Even now, only now is our writings of Ambedkar being inculcated in the courses. In my department, in contemporary Indian thinkers, there is no mention of Ambedkar. We do not read Ambedkar, we do not read Periyar, we do not read Phule. If we do not read Ambedkar, Periyar, Phule, which have been phenomenal contemporary Indian thinkers, what are we reading? This syllabus is also a byproduct of the left-led JNUSU of 40 years. So what yeah, so they have failed a lot. They have failed, and their blame on BAPSA that we are not ready to come together. That is a full-fledged out propaganda against BAPSA to invisibilize its struggle against Hindutva fascism, to invisibilize its stand against Brahminwad and Manuwad, and to delegitimize BAPSA. It is clear-cut propaganda.
So will you welcome any such alliance in the future with the left organization?
If there are if there are talks with a sort of equality based representation, that we are getting what we deserve in this, like a central panel or as councillor seats, because within the unity of the left alliance there seldom is a space for BAPSA as a major organization to put forth its stance. We are not going to take your whatever scraps you give us. We are going to demand, we are going to assert, we are going to fight for an equal stance in your alliance. If that is achieved, why not? But then so far it has not been, and the brunt of the force is given to BAPSA, but then I do not believe BAPSA here is to blame.
Okay, if you look at the result of the JNUSU, it's true that ABVP have lost all 4 seats in the central panel, but they have also got good number of votes. Okay, the forces, the Hindutva forces cannot be ruled out.
Yeah.
So in upcoming elections, maybe if election takes place next year, okay, so do you think that BAPSA alone contesting elections against ABVP or against right-wing forces is a better option, or BAPSA having alliance with the left organization is a better position?
First of all, we'll have to look at the ground reality and assess it within these 5 months of tenure that we have. It is a very concerning thing that ABVP has grown in number, be it for n number of reasons, that 4 years of depoliticization of the campus that has happened, 4 years of tarnishing the name of JNU, that all that happens is politics and violence within this campus, 4 years of 4 years of disconnect with the politics that used to happen in JNU, and all this establishment of new centers that has created a very strong cadre for ABVP, and also a very depoliticized sort of population that gives ticks Nota so much. I mean, there has been a rise in Nota votes as well, and that is very concerning, that there are people within JNU so privileged and so unbothered that they do not care which party comes, because they are unaffected by whatever. So this sort of is very concerning, But BAPSA has always been this force that has uh, seen beyond this binary of the left and right. We have seen that okay, the threat of the right is very real, and the right should be defeated at any cost. But we have seen that even with the rule of the left, the marginalized sections have not fared well. So we are against this binary of the left and right, because in essence one is a very overt Brahminical force, some other is somewhat progressive but covert Brahminical force. And I believe that it is very important for the oppressed voices to come to the fore. It will take some time. Maybe it will take not next elections but the next to next to next elections for our ideology to actually reach the masses, and to tell them that the BAPSA has actually the ideological backing to defeat ABVP as well. And now that our Bahujan organizations have to work twice as hard to be visible in a Savarna dominated space or in an Agrahara. So we have been working twice as hard, and it is a great matter of great joy for us that we have been in central panel and we are more visible as we have any time been. And I believe that it is the best possible way to work for the students and make them realize that BAPSA is the sole force that can truly support, bring forth issues of the marginalized, and can truly bring forth a progressive sort of idea beyond the left and right, away from Brahminical forces that dominate both these ideologies.
Your PhD is on gender issues, and if you read Ambedkar, you will find that even Phule, you will find that the gender questions cannot be properly understood without looking at it through caste level. Okay.
Yeah.
And the earlier feminist scholars have completely ignored the caste questions while looking at patriarchy and other issues. So, what kind of research you are doing? What kind of issues you are interested? What would be your framework if you want to share something very briefly about the insight which you are getting about your work?
So I am trying to work on like this field of philosophy that has all been very dominated by metaphysics and removed from social reality. First of all, I am coming through a critique of that removal of from social reality, because as people, as gendered beings also, we are very much in touch with our social realities. We cannot be seen away from the society that we live in, and even gender is gained through this society, the gender schemas and everything. And I am working on language and gender, how language plays a very important role in the accumulation of gender notions that we like inculcate within us or internalize. All the gender notion that we internalize, language plays a very important foundational role. And this language is not far removed. This language is also product of society. It includes gender scheme. Language includes gender schemas, but language also, in a society like India, it also includes caste schemas. So through that lens, I wish to address the question of gender and language in a Indian framework as well. And absolutely right that feminist philosophers at first have in India have tried to ignore the question of caste, but this is also because these feminist scholars have been Savarna. So of course they would ignore that. But then for a Dalit person coming, like Dalit person in touch with feminist ideology, I would see patriarchy as Brahminical patriarchy that operates through the structures of caste, that women are controlled, their sexuality is controlled to keep the purity of the caste intact. I would see it through that framework. And yeah, my work is trying to connect this analytic sort of notion of mind, of self and gender to a social reality as well.
Some scholars are also looking at patriarchy within the Dalit community.
Scholar is very focused on, I mean, they have this over focus, I will say, that a skewed sort of focus on subaltern studies or Dalit studies. Why don't you first question your own question your own privilege. Why don't you do Brahmin studies? Why don't you do how oppression is given out in your structures, how privilege works within yourself, how you oppress the Dalits, how patriarchy functions within your communities, and then like the overt focus on Dalits, doing Dalit studies or subaltern studies is like the foundation of it is seeing Dalits or seeing Bahujans as some sort of alien studies to be done or datas. Like Abhay Kumar in his poem says, "I am not your data. I'm not your cannon fodder. I'm nothing of that sort that can be, I will be open for your research or experiments ready to be read." Read your own communities first, figure out your own stance. Tell us how your families do oppression, how your families subjugate others, how your patriarchy functions within your families. And then come with this, I don't know, this is a very belittling sense of doing Dalit studies or doing subaltern studies, and all these scholars, my problem is that all these scholars are Savarna, and so you cannot see our struggles through a humane lived experience lens. You are somewhere seeing it as a belittling or alienating lens. That is my contention with all
So
this.
Priyanshi is basically saying that caste is always reduced to being a reality just within the Dalit community, but the fact of the matter is being ignored, that how it is affecting the life of a Brahmin also. The life of a Brahmin is more regulated and controlled by the caste system than maybe the life of a Dalit is. Looking at the general Dalit politics at the national level, how do you feel, how do you react, how do you comment on as a Ambedkarite activist, emerging Ambedkarite activist, JNUSU leader?
Yeah, so I mean, the victory that I had recently, so I got a lot of love and congratulations from all over India, from people who sympathized with Ambedkarite ideology, and I feel a sense of belongingness with all them, that okay, my victory is not mine alone, and it is a sort of inspiration to a Dalit woman, say studying and struggling for her dignity, studying with a lot of obstacles, that okay, yeah, she also has a voice and she can come forth and put forth her own voice like I am. So I believe that Ambedkarite movement is gaining traction by the day, as it should. Sense of unity of the oppressed is working beyond the campus in the country as well, and I believe that this movement is a long lasting movement, since it is based on the reality of oppression that we face. It is a product of all the anger we have inbuilt in us because of the discrimination we face, and Dalit politics, Bahujan politics largely can become a more organized movement. Yeah, that is all I have to say.
So first time BAPSA has won the seat in central panel. You are the general secretary since its inception in 2024. I think in 10 years, the first time Priyanshi has won the central panel. So you have got big responsibility to carry forward the demands and the aspiration of the students community, particularly marginalized community. Also, you have become the face of your party, BAPSA. So what are the main 3, 4, 5 things you are going to do which should be done immediately, for which you will work day and night?
Yeah, first of all, that the recent things that have been coming forward regarding admissions in PhD, that admission in PhD will happen just through net basis, or the PhD scholars are only given a time frame of 4 years to live within the hostel. It is a very undemocratic and arbitrary move, I will say, and this has to be immediately addressed, and if needed, a political agitation should be done against this, because because students face a lot of downsides because of these things. If NET has never been a qualifier for PhD, but now if it is used as a qualifier, then there will be 100% Viva, and within that we have seen even in 30% Viva, Bahujan students face a lot of discrimination. They are given 2 or 4 marks and they are rejected in admission and said not found suitable. So if it is 100% Viva, then it is a very a very brutal downside to Bahujan students and even students in general. So that is one thing that we wish to address on an immediate basis. Other than that, there is no redressal mechanism against sexual harassment right now, no proper redressal mechanism. GS Cash has been disbanded, so we will work on reinstating GS Cash on an immediate basis. The campus, I believe, has been desensitized a lot as respect to disability. There is a overt romanticization of all these dhabas, Ganga dhaba and all this, but these are not accessible to wheelchair people, and even there is a sort of not sensitivity in faculty members when dealing with person with disabilities. Tactile parts are broken, so we will work on an immediate basis to restore all these things and make the campus more accessible for disabled persons. Also, an increase in fellowship is also our immediate demand, because a lot of students here also have to pay their mess bill, also send money back home, and yeah, that is one. And we have seen that hostel mein the reservation policies are not being followed properly since a few years, so we will want to work on that as well. That reservation policy is followed properly. These are some of our demands. Also, the demand for gender neutral washrooms, as Hasrate has put forward, and even in the JNUSU constitution till now, only he or she pronouns are used. Gender neutral pronouns are not used. So we will work on immediately amending the constitution to add they pronouns as well.
So Priyanshi, you are a first year PhD student. You have to stay in JNU for 4 more years, and then you have to complete JNUSU tenure for 1 more year. It would be very early to ask these questions, but are you planning to join politics?
As for now, not really. Political, like, I don't have such a strong political ambition as to go out and join a political party or contest a nationwide election or that sort of thing. The entire point of me joining BAPSA and also contesting elections from BAPSA was that BAPSA came forth as a community resisting against casteism within the campus, that in this Agrahara, this Savarna dominated space, they are fighting for their dignity. BAPSA is fighting for their dignity and fighting to make a space, and that is why I feel that to represent BAPSA's politics, that is why I also contested the election, that BAPSA should have a voice, and that is my sole reason. No such political ambition really. What I really actually want to do after my PhD is teach, and yes, I have seen that back at my home in Haldwani or in Uttarakhand, there is not a collective conscience within the Bahujan community that we can come together and fight casteism. There is no organization as such, and Baba Sahib always said that his last message to us was educate, agitate and organize. So I would want to work along these lines of education, agitation and organization in my hometown as well. Through social work and through education, inculcate a sense of community belonging within Bahujans, that we can come together and with the power of Ambedkarite ideology, resist, put forth a strong resistance against casteist forces and Brahmanical forces that have penetrated the state.
Priyanshi, I have learnt a lot from talking to you.
Thank you so much.
I hope so that my friends will also gain many more things, many more insight about Ambedkarite movements. It's pleasant talking with you. Thank you very much for spending time.
Thank you so much, Abhay. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.